Hello and welcome back to another session of Therapy and Panels. Again, welcome back to the show. We are at a different location today due to some cleaning going on in my usual space today. So for today, I thought, going off of the disappointment of the lack of vampire stuff from the Tomb of Dracula, I figured we'd look at a different vampire today. That vampire being Morbius. No, not that Morbius. I'm talking about the good Morbius.
Created by Roy Thomas, there was interest in having Spider-Man fighting a vampire, possibly even Dracula. To quote Thomas, "We were talking about doing Dracula, but Stan wanted a costume villain. Other than that, he didn't specify what we should do." And he also added that part of the conception of the character came from the 1957 film called The Vampire, which was a movie from his youth that depicted a man turning into a vampire by radiation rather than magic. He and penciler Gil Kane then discussed and created the character together, deciding it was more appropriate for the science fiction-based Spider-Man to fight a villain given vampire powers via scientific reasonings rather than supernatural means. The initial two-story arc emphasized that Morbius, like many of Spider-Man's villains, such as the Lizard, wasn't truly malicious, but a tragic, sympathetic character who unwittingly changed into a monster as a result of trying to cure his own rare but fatal blood disease.
Now, to quote an old dead meme, it's Morbid time as we step into Morbius #1.
I really like the cover art here with Morbius front and center by some gravestones. It gives the image of a more realistic look, and it amazes me just how an artist can do this with the paint and whatever software or techniques they use. We begin at a factory where Iron Man villain the Melter is working on some type of formula. He is about to test it out on one of his men when suddenly he hears screaming and some more of his men come running in terror. They continue to run off screaming about a monster, and while annoyed and confused about this, we start getting glimpses of a shadowy figure quickly dealing with all these people. We finally get a good look at Morbius in all of his vampiric glory as he deals with the final henchman, and going off some of the panels, it is not a pretty sight. The Melter finally encounters Morbius, who is just finishing up eating and cleaning up the ketchup packet that splattered from that man's shirt. Melter tries to fight him off, but to no avail, as before he deals with Melter, Morbius declares he will be taking the equipment they were using for more humane reasons than whatever it was they were really planning to do here. Throughout the story, Morbius has been thinking about the rationale of humankind by quoting Aristotle, most of it during the violent attacks on the warehouse. But he is at least trying to reason with himself for this moment, as he has been struggling with the hunger of a vampire and has been trying to develop a cure for it, not wanting to do what he has been doing. It's one of the reasons this character is so tragic. Meanwhile, we end the issue back at the warehouse where Melter and any of the survivors get an encounter from someone willing to help them deal with Morbius.
Has Morbius found a cure? Will he find a cure for his ailment? Who was that person talking to the Melter earlier? Well, as always, you're gonna have to find out yourself by picking up this book anywhere you can, whether online or at a bookstore. But for my opinions, this was a good beginning for the for an issue.
From the inking to the coloring, the art is fantastic with the expressions of the characters. And during the attack at the warehouse, it's showcasing the fear and suspense from a vampire attack. And the story really sets up, making you feel for Morbius and his predicament of looking for a cure.
That's all the time we have for today's session. I'd like to thank you all for attending another session of Therapy and Panels. If you liked the video, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. And as always, this is the Super Guru signing off.